This episode is for Thursday, December 31st, 2015. Welcome, Crater fans. I'm your host, Josh Owens.
I'm your co-host, Ben Strahan.
Welcome to our last episode of the year.
Yes. Yes. What a year.
One day. We decided to bump it up a little bit so we could record it before the year ended. Get some goodness out. Maybe by Friday this will actually be in your feeds, in your ear. Where we like to be.
Are you excited for 2016, Josh?
Yeah, I definitely am.
It's going to be a big year.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting year.
Yes, that's a better way to describe it.
Yeah. I don't know about big, right? Like I saw a picture and someone's like, was it in the random chat room?
I think, yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was like when you thought 2015 was gonna be your year, but here we are, and it's like this girl like pulling away and falling down from her mom.
Yeah.
I have a feeling next year will be a lot like that too.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. I'm wrapping up my second week off from
Nice.
OK Grow. Yeah. And just like hammering out books and reading a bunch of new technical stuff, and
Nice.
it's fun. I'm getting ready for 2016.
You should have told me. We could have paired on all this terrible creator spam I've been dealing with.
Oh, yeah, that's been a battle, right?
Yeah. So I've got I'll just apologize to readers and listeners. Like, it's been a terrible fight. So at first, like the problem was we were getting like 1 to 2 posts a day where people are like, "Oh, go watch this pirated movie online," and then like all of a sudden it blew up one day, probably about a month ago, and maybe a little over a month ago, and it was like, breast augmentation in Orange County or chiropractors in Minnesota. And I was like, oh, what is this? And like, it's just been getting progressively worse. Like since I put in the Akismet spam detector, we've had 118 posts and like 69 of those have been spam at least.
Wow.
So it's pretty bad. But I think I've got it mostly figured out. So I installed Akismet, or I wrote an Akismet package for Telescope, and it turns out. So I also did some other stuff. I need to write a blog post about this, but
Definitely.
I moved to my own load balancing setup since I got tired of waiting for my invite to what do you call it? Galaxy. I made my own Galaxy. With just Nginx and its load balancing, and I got it compiled so that it can do out-of-band health checks, which means that basically it can just every few seconds go check to make sure the server's up. Normally, Nginx, you gotta sit there and wait and get a 500 error, and then it'll be like, oh, we should stop sending requests there. These out-of-band checks are a little better. Theoretically, should detect it down faster. But one thing that happened is that it turns out Akismet needs an IP address to, like, that's a big part of how it determines spam. And the IP address I was sending was 127.0.0.1. And so I started poking, and apparently there's a HTTP forwarded count environment variable you can set for Meteor, and it'll look at the X forwarded for headers, and it'll pick like how far back it needs to go. So then I got that working, and it turned out that like I was getting the IP of the proxy, and so I started poking even more, and it turned out like I had a typo in my X forwarded for header setting in the load balancer. So I got all that fixed, and I'm kind of hoping that now Akismet will start working properly. So we'll see.
Wow. What's the feedback loop on that? Like, you fix one thing and you're like, and discovering the next thing.
Yeah. Well, it all started like, I'm going to make Crater faster. And so I ended up spending like 3 days on that. And then, I will say this, like moving to a multi-server setup with a load balancer, it's been a dream. Like, it's definitely like people were seeing slowness on Crater because things were blocking on the server, and anytime the event loop got blocked up in Node, like you're just sitting there waiting for something to happen. And so now that we have two servers, like those blocks seem distributed and much better. So
Very cool.
yeah.
Craters on the map now. Once spammers find you, then that means that you're legit.
I guess so. I mean, the problem is like I'm also seeing. I don't know if this is just a downward holiday trend or Google's like penalizing me for this spam that's on the site, but I'm definitely seeing a downtrend in the Google traffic at the moment.
Yeah, I bet you it's the holiday.
It's probably a little of both.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to catch them. The next step is probably like you'll have to have positive karma before you can post, and then I don't know. I got to look at the karma system a little bit, but I've got more ideas to make it even harder to spam.
Yeah.
I was looking at Stack Overflow, and like you can only do certain things when you first sign up for an account.
It is so annoying, but
It is.
it's probably one of the keys to their success.
They're anti-spam because I mean it takes you like you have to like successfully answer a question before you can even like leave a comment anywhere.
Yes.
So it's like that's quite the brass ring there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
As a spammer, if you're going to take the time to answer that question, like chances are you can find some other hack form to spam faster.
Yeah, exactly. When I first got on it, I was a new developer and I wanted to like post a comment to expand like a question, like ask another question, right? I couldn't believe I couldn't post a comment. I was like, what kind of website is this?
Yep. Crazy.
But it really is valuable now. Like that's what all the content is valuable there.
Mm-hmm.
They have a very passionate ecosystem. People administer it very well because of that. Yeah, so man, you might be onto something.
Yeah, maybe
A whole slew of like blog posts for 2016.
I really do have a lot because the other thing that I did too was like trying to speed it up. I was looking at some of the indexes that I had, and so it turns out, like a little known fact, if your sort stuff isn't in your index and it's not in there in the proper order, you're gonna you're gonna do what they call like a scan and sort, and that's really terribly expensive and slow. So even with an index, you may end up having a slow query because you didn't create your index right. And so like, if you do like in Telescope, we do a query that says status to, posted at less than blah, blah, blah. And then you do the sort stuff, right? We sort by like posted at and score. Yeah, score and posted at and all that stuff. So you actually have to do status and then score and then any of the sort stuff you do, and then you do posted at the very end. And so if you're doing like an inquiry, $ inquiry, or a less than or greater than, that needs to be at the end of your index. Otherwise it's going to have to do that sorting in the server rather than just pull it out in the sorted order.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I think
Crazy stuff.
you might have like a performance service on your hands.
Already did.
Yeah, you had like a security service, right?
No, it's performance.
Whoops, sorry.
Yeah, Pete's was security, but
yes, that's right.
It turns out, at the end of the day, like if they're not sure what they're doing with performance, they're not sure what they're doing with security either. So most of my code reviews turned into both.
Yes, that's why I got confused because, like, yeah, you come across things that you just can't like glaze over. You have to mention it.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's so like glaringly obvious that they don't have deny rules or something, or
right.
they're let's just take a user ID and not bother to check anything and see that they're logged in. All right.
Well, all right. Let's get into the show, man.
Right.
That's exciting stuff.
So this week we're going to talk about Respondly, Tracker 2.0, Meteor, and GraphQL. Unit testing with Meteor 1.3. It's not even out yet. and JavaScript fatigue. All right, let's get into it.
Yeah, so we got some good news here.
Yeah. This was super interesting. So this Buffer acquired Respondly. This is not the first exit for a Meteor shop or
Right.
application. But I think this is maybe, I don't know if this is bigger or not, but Respondly, I think, like, had a bigger base, right? So if you look back, the other one was Stream, STREEM, acquired by Dropbox. And I don't think they had a whole lot of customers. And honestly, like, I haven't seen a whole lot come out. I hear sometimes whisperings that Dropbox uses Meteor for playing around with things, but I just don't think like it really changed the culture of Dropbox, right?
Well, it was bought by Box, right? Not Dropbox.
Oh, it was Box. You're right, not
It was
Dropbox.
Box. Yeah. And it was definitely like MVP Stream
Yeah.
was at the time. So it makes me think it was an acquire hire.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking as well.
Yeah.
But I think this is interesting because this isn't an acquire hire.
Right.
Buffer legitimately wanted to have some kind of customer service social media tool, and they said they felt like it was going to take them at least a year and a half, probably around 18 months, to get to $100,000 monthly run rate. And so I guess like that's their mark of where they want that product to be. And they felt like it was going to take them too long to get there for the amount of time they'd spend on it. And so instead they just went out and spent some cash to acquire Respondly. And I think they've already kind of renamed it to Respond and changed the look of it a little bit. And they're working on revamping the entire UI of the system. But there was a lot of question and concern, like, oh, are they going to move away from Meteor? I think us obviously in this community, we're kind of curious about that, and they've actually come out and said that they're going to stick around on Meteor, and that the CTO has been playing with it and he enjoys it, so they have no plans to move it anytime soon. I think this is really just hey, you've got a product, we've got an audience, let's figure out how to make this work, and we can probably like bring in a lot more revenue with your product, and it'll benefit both parties involved. So
yeah,
makes sense.
It's a win for the Meteor community.
For sure, yeah. The fact that they're sticking around, I think, is a good win, that they're not going to just necessarily leave the Meteor community.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations, guys.
Indeed. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tracker 2.0. So for those that don't know what Tracker is, a lot of times you think like Blaze is magical when you're making your Meteor apps and things just happen. But Tracker is the thing in the background that invalidates dependencies and reruns them. So when new data is available, things get invalidated and reran, and then you get an update on your screen. And that's Tracker running. So James Gilmore, which is this Spacey?
This is Spacey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. I stay out of the forum, so I'm sorry.
No.
But so we brought this article, and it's called Tracker 2.0. We're going to have a link to it in the show notes, and definitely encouraged to read it. It's great, man. It was a fun read.
This is a long read.
It was a long read.
Yeah.
But I can appreciate it because like this week I've been reading all these technical books, and this article kind of reads like that, where it lays out the problem. It provides a good argument, and then it provides a solution. So, I mean, I don't know. That's just the mood that I'm in this week, I guess. So I appreciated how it was written. If it was like during the work week, I would not read this whole thing. Like I need my articles under 4 minutes during the work week. Like I have no patience really. So I like Avi Ayer's articles.
Like there were so many to choose from, and a lot of articles that it didn't make the list, but he's been putting out some good ones too.
Yeah, nice and short, and crisp. Anyway, I don't want to take away from this. This is a great article for Tracker 2.0. Now, it's not saying that Tracker 2.0 is official. Like he's not like writing an article about like, oh, this is great new Tracker 2.0 coming from MDG. This is exposing the issues of Tracker 1.0.
Right.
And
His
a lot
thoughts on what 2.0 should be, right?
Yep, exactly. And it's interesting because he wrote it. So there's some obvious issues with Tracker 1.0. I would point you guys to the article to really understand it because he lays it out very well. A lot of people are saying, hey, like there's Redux out there. You know, it handles reactivity pretty efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
And like, let's just go that route. And this whole article was written by James to like say, hold on, like Tracker, like you don't need to throw it away.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Totally.
Yeah.
And, this is a big problem anyway, right? Like, I feel like MDG is willing to throw away a lot of stuff just because it's not seen as the latest and greatest tool necessarily, and
Or maybe they don't want to be the maintainer of open source software.
I think that's a big part of it as well. It definitely gets pricey, having maintained Crater over the last like 2 to 3 weeks. It's definitely eaten into my billing time as well.
Yeah.
So I certainly understand that stuff.
It's expensive and time consuming to maintain open source projects. Like I have a bunch that are private and I will not release it. And I really am envious of the guys like Aeronota that just like release stuff like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Because like my big fear is maintaining it.
It can be, it can get a little expensive to maintain it, but at the same time, I think that you can end up with better software, right? And so to me, like we used to have this unofficial saying at one of the dev shops I worked at, and it was like, we're better together. And it was this idea that like, we did pair programming there and everything like that. And the idea was like, two people thinking about a problem, it's likely going to come up with a better solution than just one person. And I think that open source tends to leverage a lot of that. You have stuff like this post where someone's talking about it, and maybe it gets the ball rolling, gets the conversation started, and someone can key off of this and start working on something new. Who knows?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I do like that aspect of it.
I do too. There's another aspect where, especially in the Meteor world, where Meteor is attracting a lot of new developers. And so you get tons of issues of just like questions of like how to do this, how to do that. And really it's people lacking a deeper understanding. So they're not offering solutions. They're just taking up the time of the people that should be pushing a library forward.
Mm-hmm.
And that is like a Grinch. I know I'm a Grinch. You guys could like blast me on Twitter if you want for saying that. But it's just another thing to concern myself with and ask myself before I release something.
Yeah.
And I don't mind it. Like the libraries out there that I do maintain, I think it's great. And to help people level up, like I needed that when I was young.
Yeah.
I was like a groveler at the master's table, I was like, I would see some response to issues. I was like, oh, this is what I needed. Anyway,
Nice.
so I'm going to get off my high horse now. But anyway, so I really like this article.
Tracker 2.0. Well, and I want to say too, like I appreciate, James writing this stuff and like sharing it and thinking about a lot of this stuff. So I started watching a thread over on the Relay GitHub repo, the Facebook one, and it was about doing like live updating subscriptions and how they're like sort of figuring out what that looks like. And
are you subscribed to that too?
Yeah. And then like out of the blue, like I just get an email in my inbox and it's James, and he's like over there talking and mentioning Meteor and saying like, hey, we've already got a lot of this stuff, so like we could maybe implement it in a smart way that Meteor could hook into. And I'm just like, yeah, that is super awesome. I'm glad he's over there being an ambassador at least, if no one else is at this point. But
Mm-hmm.
somebody's thinking about it and paying attention.
We're just stalkers.
Well, I think it's like super relevant and interesting to us, right? Because you feel like I feel like I came to Meteor because of like the reactive stuff and like how it's all wired up already for you and all that kind of stuff. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm interested to understand when I could potentially leave Meteor or stick with Meteor, but use slightly different tooling. Who knows?
Yeah. So Meteor meets GraphQL.
Indeed. I read this a couple days ago and I meant to glance at it before we got started again. Basically, this is like a tutorial and a marriage of some packages. There's a Kadira GraphQL and there's a Laka, I think that's how you pronounce it,
Mm-hmm.
package as well, um, which is like a React kind of client interface that Aeronoda created. I believe, did he create Laka?
I
I
want to
guess I
say yeah,
assume that. So
and
yeah,
I might be like being confused with Sika.
yeah, the names sound closely related. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, here we go. Laka API. Yeah, that's definitely a Kadira thing as well. But he walks you through like um, setting up all your like the GraphQL stuff that he's written, and it's kind of nice. Like he's got a GraphQL landing page where you can see your schemas, um, and then he walks through like building and registering a schema, and then shows you how to use Laka to subscribe to it. Essentially, like pull that info in. Um, and then get it all set up in React, and then boom, it's just like all flowing. And so the interesting thing to me is that number one, like he's got all this working with Meteor, which is awesome, and then number two, like this means that we're no longer necessarily reliant on Mongo as our data source, right? So now, if we can get it to work with GraphQL, then you've got a way to easily bring in GraphQL data as well.
Did you see that retweet from Aeronoda? I think it was today,
No.
where someone got this going, wired it up to Postgres.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
See, that's to me, that's the super interesting thing. Um, people are sitting here thinking about how to get GraphQL and Postgres working, or GraphQL. Like, I'm hearing that what's their name? Like they've Rethink DB has committed to like being GraphQL compatible, right? And so
Nice.
boom, you've got
Yeah.
another data source now. Like
Yeah.
we no longer have to wait on MDG because I think maybe that's going to be a lost cause in the end, like waiting on MDG to get us more data sources.
Yeah. I think MDG is like restructuring themselves, preparing like they're moving out of the inventing phase
Mm.
and they're growing into a profitable in the black company. So it would make sense. And they've come out and said that GraphQL looks really interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they've said they wanted to steer this way anyway. And I'm sure in the fashion that they do, they're going to take some time and do some research and experimentation, and then come out and tell us what they're going to build, and then go build it, and then we'll get it. So if I had to guess, maybe we'll see something by like April. I don't know.
Yeah.
Could
Or they
be.
might surprise us and invent something, you know. And this is a good segue to our next talk if we wanted to talk a little bit about 1.3.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And because it was interesting because at first they like showed interest in Webpack as well.
Mm-hmm.
And now 1.3 comes out and we talked about the post that Ben Newman talked about I think like 2 weeks ago
Mm-hmm.
where they were going to just adopt ECMAScript 2015 module system
Mm-hmm.
over Webpack and kind of build out over that. Well, so now 1.3 has been released for testing.
Yeah, there's like a beta out there.
Yep. Yeah. And I'm like drawing a blank here. Sorry. So our boy Pete went ahead and released an article that is like super awesome
Mm-hmm.
about now that we got module support, we can have awesome unit testing.
Mm-hmm.
And so on his blog on East 5th, we got unit testing with Meteor 1.3. Awesome article. What do you think about all this testing stuff, Josh? Because you had a testing course.
Yeah. So I think it's super interesting. So the problem was that if you want to do some kind of testing with Meteor, there was no way to just incrementally say, I need this code and I want to run a test on this code.
Right.
Right. So the build tool would like give you everything. And so we need a way to just say like load this code up and then you can do a unit test. And a unit test is like, you're not, we don't care about testing Meteor itself. We just care about testing this particular piece of code we wrote. Maybe this piece of code takes a timestamp and converts it into like the most beautiful like time string you've ever seen in your life. And you want to test that and make sure like, oh, here's a timestamp. I want to see the beautiful time string come out of it.
Right. Right.
And like, Meteor being reactive has nothing to do with any of that. And, but there's no easy way for you to just like load this code in. And like you could do all kinds of crazy tricks to try to make that work. And, frankly, Velocity and Jonas, like they did some interesting things to try to get all this working. But at the end of the day, like, the real solution you need is just the ability to say, require this file, and it gets loaded into the environment.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can do things like mocking out Meteor calls, because when I'm running this test, I don't necessarily care that I'm hitting the database. I just want to make sure that maybe the unit test makes a call to a collection and gets something back. And so that would be where you would mock or stub something out. I guess if you don't care, you'd probably stub it out. But this is a good article. I think
it is.
should be testing. I'm sad we're in this in between state, but I'm glad that we're getting somewhere where it can get better.
Yeah.
And I think in the end it'll be markedly better. But we're just kind of living through this pain point right now.
But there's a light. And this is what the article is about. Like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We're getting to the end of the tunnel soon. And what Josh is alluding to is that right now we're kind of in this purgatory where velocity isn't supported. And also it's really hard to run unit tests. How Meteor sends everything, it's more geared for end-to-end tests. But I'm really excited that MDG is so on top of ECMAScript 2015, and it just opens up so much more.
Yeah, I agree. Right, and so to me, like an analogy to this would be like you go to the Apple store because you want to buy a brand new laptop, like top of the line laptop, and you get there and they're all out of like every type of laptop except the old like 2-year-old Mac. Right, and so you're like, well, I really need a laptop, but I don't want to buy
a CD-ROM.
I don't want to buy the 2-year-old laptop, so like it's it sucks, and you just gotta wait it out, or I don't know. Yeah, I just wait it out at this point. Like that's really my plan here.
Yeah.
But I think this is great. This walks you through everything that you need to do to get everything going on, and even shows you like how you can inject your dependencies in there. So if you need to do something, but at the end of the day, like what all this is about, like this incremental, like the module loading and all this kind of stuff that we're getting is about speed. When you ran your velocity test before, you're waiting on the build tool to do something. Whereas now you can just wait on Jasmine or Mocha to just load that file up and run the test, and it takes like, you can see there at the end, it's 2 milliseconds. And I asked him, and he said like it's just a straight 2 milliseconds. It's not like build tool finishes, it runs, then I have 2 milliseconds on top of the build tool wait time. So instead of 12 seconds, you get 2 milliseconds.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks, Pete, for writing this. It really makes a thing that could be a yak shave into something really simple. So,
yeah, definitely. Thank you for yak shaving before us. That's really what you mean to say.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I just I didn't want to depress him.
Yeah. We're glad you yak shaved and not us.
Talking about yak shaving.
Ooh, right? Big yak shave post here, huh? I'm just going to read this. A few days ago, I met up with a friend and peer over coffee. Saul, how's it going? Me, fatigued. Saul, family? Me, no, JavaScript. More accurately, I meant React and the JavaScript ecosystem that comes with it.
Seriously.
And so, I'll say, I'm reading this article and I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly kind of how I've felt lately, because I feel like since we've added React support, we're bilaterally getting all this JavaScript kind of fatigue flowing into our community as well. Wouldn't you agree?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
totally. And so, he's got a tweet quote here: too many newbies getting overwhelmed by React's learning curve. Why? And that's from Pete Hunt, which is the guy that kind of spearheaded React. And then
Thanks,
someone
Pete.
else pointed out, they were talking to Dan Abramov. I assume that's how you say that. This is killing me that setting up a JS project is so damn hard. Took me an entire evening last time. And it's like, this is why I'm a Meteor. This is exactly why I'm a Meteor, because setting all this crap up is not something I want to spend time doing. I don't care about it. And at the end of the day, it's to me, it's a terrible exercise to spend your time on. If you're interested in writing a framework, absolutely go spend your time on it. But chances are, you're going to be a bit player, right? You're never going to be Angular. You're never going to be React. And it's going to be hard to catch them. And I think if you want, I don't see job markets coalesce around quadrary, players in the space. So I think, it's if you want to have a vibrant job market and a growing ecosystem around a framework, you have to do a good job of killing these kinds of concerns, in my opinion. And React itself isn't doing that right now. I still think they're on a path to do it, and I think that a lot of people are seeing this. I mean, Pete Hunt saying, why is it so hard? Or Dan Abramov being mentioned in these. These guys work at Facebook and they're working on React. And I think that they're going to start thinking about this stuff.
They will. It'll come around to it. I'm thinking right now, it's probably a small team that's been there from the beginning at Facebook, or from the beginning of when React started. It's working on this, and they haven't added a big drove of more developers onto it. And it's going to come. It's just like any code base. Say you work on a large project, you got a large code base, and it's you and one other guy, and you're building it. And then all of a sudden the other guy goes, and then the new guy comes in, and they're like, what am I looking at? Or you're reviewing his code, and you're like, oh, you don't need to do that. I already got a helper function doing that here. Da, da, da. Mm-hmm. And to us, it's why is it so hard for you to understand? And the new guy's like, wow, there's a mountain in front of me.
Yeah, totally. Right. It's definitely the knowledge level that you've attained, right? And if you're way up here, it's hard for you to understand what kind of problems are happening way down at the bottom.
And if you're the inventor, or you're there while you're inventing stuff, you can remember every decision that you made on why you had to do this and why you had to do that. A new person coming in, none of those questions are answered. They don't even know if they have those questions yet.
Right.
So and it's more than just React. It's the ecosystem. that comes with
Right.
it. And
Well,
that's what
yeah, it's the fact that you have Brunch or you have Webpack or you have like all these numerous tools that you could choose around or in between or whatever. Like they started talking about Yauman and Plop, and how like you can have generators and just the article goes on and on and on about like um,
well, there's a lot of new things out there. There's a lot of buzzwords out there. A lot of Webpack's getting a lot of press. So you're like, oh, well, if I'm going to learn React, I might as well like get Webpack to build my stuff. Okay, I'm going to learn Webpack. Oh, it's taking forever. Okay, I'm going to learn Webpack. Great. All right, I'm into React. Oh, how do I handle CSS? Oh, I'm going to like learn CSS modules or
right.
Radium or JSS. And you're like, well, which one's the one I should pick?
Well,
Okay, well,
the problem is a
it
lot of
goes on and on.
setting up a lot of these tools. It's a very explicit thing to do, right? Like you have to actually spell everything out, which we're sort of moving to with Meteor 1.3, right? We get like the ES 2015 module loading, and like I think you'll probably see like a auto loader package that will do what Meteor does now. But then you'll be able to like pull the it's like ripping away the tablecloth and like leaving all the dishes there. There's going to come a point where you're just going to have to say like we need to be able to incrementally load the files we need, and that's kind of what we're talking about here. A lot of these tools you have to just set up those needs ahead of time, and I think that it's hard to understand and appreciate what you're going to need when you're just getting started with something.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to say, I felt this way too. And when I started this week of learning right now, I had a decision to make. Either do I like learn a modern stack right now and try to like monkey patch where I'm like missing some knowledge of basic JavaScript or ECMAScript 2015, or do I like go back to basics and like just like strengthen my foundation and then be able to like jump into these other libraries quicker. And I decided to like go back and like strengthen my foundation in JavaScript first.
That's interesting. I'd have gone the other way.
Well, and I started doing that, and I just was running into a bunch of yak shaving stuff, and I'm like, I just I want to have a better overview of stuff, and like I'm reading these books, and 80-90% of the stuff I already know.
Hmm.
But then I get to 10%, and I'm like, oh, okay. I mean,
Yeah.
there is some syntax out there that, and especially with 2015, there's stuff that I've just like, okay, I kind of understand.
Hmm.
Um, so, yeah, that's the way that I took because I was getting fatigued, and I want to do the safe bet, which is right now there's a lot of dust stirred up. All right, where is it going to settle? No one really knows. We got some directions.
Hmm.
Uh, what I do know for sure is that I need to have a solid grasp on 2015. And I have to get a solid grasp on how these things are like structured, these libraries and stuff like that. And I decided to go with that first. And now when I dive into React project and the decisions that I'm faced with to make, now I could like, I don't know, I'm better equipped. At least for me, that's my way of making a decision. And guess what? I'm not so fatigued anymore.
Hmm.
It's interesting because before I was like, it was like this unknown thing.
Well, I think part of this too is like as a developer, you gotta like get work done every day, right? Like and all this stuff is happening and all these people are talking and like you're hearing that conversation across the room and you're like, what is that thing? Like I should probably know about that thing they're doing over there. But you're like, but I gotta get this done. And like that can be a very, very tough thing to like I think that contributes sometimes to the fatigue and that's what they're kind of getting at here.
And that's where I was.
Right, but
That-
I think my point is like you've been able to take 2 weeks off and kind of play around with things and take the time to sit down and see what's going on and like that sometimes that's what's needed. But I
yeah.
also think like that he makes some points towards the end of the article that he thinks there needs to be some kind of rapid application development tooling out there for doing prototyping, and that's kind of what's missing in the React system.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I've got a lot of thoughts here, and I've been thinking about like writing a response post to this.
Yeah. And Meteor could be that answer.
Right. Yeah. So I think
Could be. Depends
some of
on
my
some
posts, I'd be like,
decision.
haha, meteor.
Yes. Yeah. But we're like kind of in a state of like disarray a little bit right now too.
I
So
mean, we are, but at the same time, like
we
I
can still get
do
stuff done.
for all the annoyance and teeth gnashing that I do about where things are heading. At the same time, generally MDG tries to put out a smart release that gives you a path for upgrading.
Yes. And if we read this and our answer is Meteor, then I think MDG will be really happy. Like they're like, "All right, we accomplished what we set out to accomplish."
Mm-hmm.
If someone who's familiar with Meteor reads this article and their answer is, "Yo, like Meteor is the tooling that you're looking for,"
Yeah.
it's gonna be like, "Hooray!" Like that was their
Yeah.
unique selling proposition right there.
Yeah. And I think Meteor 1.3 is going to be the key here, right? Like the module support. I don't know. I haven't honestly I haven't even pulled down 1.3, but if we get the npm version 3 support as well, and it's a little more native into the client, along the lines of, you can go do my pretend typing. You can go into a Meteor app and like add a Cordova package directly to it. Like I never understood why you couldn't do that with npm back when they came out with that. And I realized like, they didn't. There were different people working on different things, but my hope is that we're going to see that kind of stuff coming in as well, and that's going to be like, you can just bring in your client side packaging through npm, and all of a sudden like we're full participants in the JavaScript community, and I feel like we'll maybe be a little more legitimized. I don't know.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I feel like we're like Joffrey or something right now, like an illegitimate heir, but maybe we'll be declared a full Baratheon soon.
Yeah. I could see that. Yeah, totally. Well, here's for hope. Here's for 2016.
Indeed.
Oh, and that's how he ends the article too. Here's to an exciting 2016.
Exactly.
That's funny. Well, 2016 is going to be fun. There's no letting up to the momentum that is behind JavaScript. It's not going to slow down at all.
No, not at all. I don't see it happening, right? For all the other talk you have around other languages, it still is the only language that runs everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no asterisks except this, but it's it. That's the only one.
Yeah.
And I think frankly it's maybe a little easier to learn than other languages too. Like it's got its annoyances and idiosyncrasies that you got to deal with, but it's a good option. I've already taught my son some JavaScript and he comprehends it, and I feel like I could have taught him Ruby and he probably would have picked it up just as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that JavaScript has the ability to, it's a functional language as well, right? And so right now, like I think a lot of things are kind of object oriented in some of the frameworks and whatnot, but it has the ability to let you be that functional programming language as well.
Yep. Yeah. All right, guys. Here's to a great 2015. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate it. You guys are awesome listeners, and it's been a fun year for sure. Got a bunch of fun stuff planned for 2016, so I'm excited.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what? I meant to tell you, I think I want to try to get either like Peter Hunt or Pete Hunt or Dan Abramov or someone on Meteor Club podcast soon, talking about some of the React stuff.
Dude, epic.
Yeah. I think it would be super exciting and
It
fun
would be.
to talk with those guys.
It would be. Yeah.
All right. Well, as always, if you enjoy the show or you enjoy Crater, which I've been tirelessly despamming, you can support the show or the site by going to Patreon, patreon.com/Meteor Club. And you can patronize me there. Kind of a funny way to say it, but I believe that would be accurate still. And then you can also, if you get to the $10 level, you get access to the Slack chat room, which is where all the magic happens, and you're missing out on it. Sorry.
Magic.
And big thank you. I haven't talked to Modulus yet, but they were a great sponsor for all of 2016 and
all of 2015.
2015. Wow, I'm already saying 2016. All of 2015, and I really appreciate them. And if you guys listen to the show, you should tweet at them and say, hey, thanks for sponsoring the show. Like, I enjoy the content and appreciate that you guys help them out. So I don't know if they'll be back. I sent them an email and we'll see what happens, but definitely was awesome to have them aboard for sure. So modulus.io. All right, man. We'll see you next year.
Happy New Year.
Yep. Later, guys. This video has been a Meteor Club production. You can find out more information about Meteor Club and join the mailing list by clicking on the Meteor Club button below. If you enjoyed this video, you can also hit the subscribe button below and get more content like this. Thanks for watching.